And it's important. Her reaction post-incident is very important, especially when she is pleading insanity.
Overruled. I don't think Mr. Allen is asking for an expert opinion. I think he's asking for an opinion based on his prior encounters with other individuals. So it goes to weight, not admissibility. Overruled. You can go ahead and answer.
In similar situations where a child as young as Gannon, 11 years old, is missing or has run away for the first time, there's usually a little more emotional reaction, especially when it has now been overnight and a second day. The emotions are usually more visible and present. It's not always the case, but most of the time it is when a parent's child has gone missing and they have no idea where they are now for a period of 2 days.
Now, again, I still think the defense could use this to show that she does have a mental deficiency, that she does have a mental illness, and that she didn't understand really what was going on or how bad it was or how wrong it was, right? If it fits into what their experts say. Because to me, and I see some people commenting in the chat, you can't be fully there if you're going to commit this type of act. And while that's true, it does not mean you are legally insane.
During your law enforcement career, have you dealt with people that, excuse me, that are dealing with severe mental health disorders or diseases?
Yes, I have.
And this is, again, where certain times prosecutors try to push law enforcement officers closer to that expert line than maybe they should be, right? Because he's going to answer this question. And then I think the cross is interesting.
Can you approximate, or is it too many to even put a number on?
It'd be difficult to put a number on that.
Was the defendant in your contact with her on January 28th and on January 31st, did she appear to be suffering from any severe mental health disorder or disease?
Same objection that he's relying on.
So again, he's objecting because this guy is not a mental health expert, okay? But as they often do, he's allowed to use his training experience to answer this question. Basically, he's asking, did she seem legally insane at the time? And again, in order to prove, I see Valerie, I see your question, in order to prove that she's legally insane, she has to not know, she has to have a mental disease or defect that goes to the level of not making her understand right from wrong, not understand what her actions are, what the consequences of her actions are. She can't form the criminal intent to commit a crime because she doesn't know or understand what exactly is that she's doing. So in order to disprove that, you have people like this officer get up and say, she seemed totally fine. She seemed totally with it. She was understanding all my questions, answering everything. It made sense. It just wasn't true, but it did make sense. And she was with it. And she definitely had a method to her madness. Maybe that would be a bad phrase to use, but she did have a method as to why and how she was saying things to try to make herself seem like she didn't do it.
Overruled. You
can
go
answer.
ahead and answer.
It did not appear to me, no.
Did she, when you were talking with her, asking her questions, would her answers logically follow the questions?
Yes.
Did she appear to understand, I guess, what you were asking about?
Yes.
Was she able to give you specific answers to those questions?
Yes, she was.
Thank you.
And again, legal insanity is the important part because some people would say you're insane if you could beat someone to death, right? Like there's something wrong. You've got some screws loose, whatever verbiage you want to use. Like you're not all there. You're not right. If you could just like beat someone's brains in or commit murder, period. But that is not the definition of legal insanity. That's the important part here. And that's why throughout this trial, we are really focusing on a lot of the parts about insanity, how they're going to prove it, what they're going to argue. And if they get there, as we're all talking about it, because I think at this point we all agree she did it, but whether or not she's not guilty by reason of insanity is kind of the question we have throughout this trial, which does allow us to bypass some of the gruesome facts.
And Gannon's bedroom proved something horrific happened there, as his room showed evidence of the presence of blood. Gannon's bed was moved also from its original location. Now, investigators also detailed that Letitia cleaned up that crime scene and sent her teenage daughter Harley to go grab supplies. His stepmother Letitia reported him missing later that day, claiming that he had gone to a friend's house and had not returned. In fact, Letitia said he ran away from home. A few days into the investigation, Letitia does an interview on camera, and it may just be worse than Chris Watts. She has her back turned to the camera, which was straight up bizarre, and Letitia gets her teenage daughter at the time to respond to questions and affirm her as well. Now, the most important line is where she said she wanted an apology once they find Gannon, and that she wanted an apology from her husband, Al, Gannon's father.
The message for Gannon I have is, Gannon, when you get here, you'll be able to truly tell what happened.
Wow, bro. Like, for her to say that ish.
Then I really hope I get a sincere apology from everyone who has made all those things, especially from my husband.
Letitia tells investigators that searches in that area would be futile. Notable, they found a bloody sock of Gannon's that Letitia said it just flew out of the back of the truck. And they also found a particle board that had blood on it that had Gannon's DNA on it. And that was said to have been transported to that Palmer Lake area. Letitia was arrested on March 2nd, 2020 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The authorities had gathered evidence of a crime committed in Gannon's room, enough blood for him to not be able to survive. The public only knew he was missing, not that he was presumed dead. However, on March 18th, 2020, 2 weeks after the arrest, and almost 2 months after Gannon went missing and was murdered, he was found 1,400 miles away from Colorado in Pace, Florida. Her cell phone also pinged in that area of the bridge. Now, soon after she was arrested, Letitia headed with deputies back to Colorado, but not without some drama. She assaulted a deputy en route and had to spend the night in a Kansas jail. She traveled 1,400 miles with a little boy who's been dead and decaying, then transported in the back of her rental van with her teenage daughter in tow. And he was found wrapped in the very blanket of his bed in a fetal position. The evidence leads to Letitia and only Letitia.
And
Sorry,
here's Cross.
cross-examination.
In your experience, how long have you been in law enforcement?
26 years.
In your 26 years, how many people have you dealt with that suffer from dissociative identity disorder?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't know exactly what disorder people may have be suffering from.
Do you know if you've ever dealt with anybody who
So he
suffered-
admits that he doesn't know what people are suffering from. And to me, that's a good cross. Listen, there's going to be mental health experts that say she's fine. There's going to be mental health experts that say she's not fine. But this guy's not a mental health expert. He doesn't know what she had. He's not able to diagnose people. And that's the point of cross here. And it's short, but I think he makes his point.
suffer from dissociative identity disorder?
I would believe I've probably come in contact with them. Yes.
How many?
I don't know.
No further questions.
So he's like, yeah, I probably have come into contact with them, but I'm not really sure how many or when. Because again, this guy's a cop. He's not a mental health expert. I don't blame him for this, but the prosecutor wanted to ask the question. I think there are probably some people on the jury that are like, yeah, this guy comes into contact with bad guys and bad girls all the time. And I mean, he would know if somebody's, has a problem or not, and she didn't. So I think it can still be effective evidence, even though I think legally that was a good cross, even though it was short.